Welcome. Mwebale okujja ku World View. So onakolera tuna video tugenda kwa tuyitamu ya Wode Maya. Wode Maya osogera n'omunonyako ku YouTube channel ye. Gasooka njikulaga wano eno. Wode Maya. Wode Maya. So onakolera tugenda kwa tureactinga ku muvubuka bamuyita Wode Maya. Aina video gye yakoze yasinze okumkwatako ennyo nenyagala ngisharingeko nammwe bannayuganda mugirabe. Eri mu luzungu ne tugenda kwa tugiyitamu tulabe lwaki tumanyirwa nnyo bwe tutyo. So mu South Africa mulimu akatundu ngako tekakkiriza abaddugavu kuyingiramu. Nga bw'olaba Hamu wakola estate ze okitegeera kati eyo estate nebeera nga y'abazungu nga tebakkiriza muddugavu kuyingiramu eyo estate. So kiri South Africa naye nga ate eno si estate kati kitundu kiramba nga olaba Mukono. Nti Mukono yonna yonna abazungu ne bagikwata ne bakola board yaabwe ne bakola ssente zaabwe nga tokkirizibwa kuyingirayo oba omuddugavu. Tumanyiddwa. So getulabe Wode Maya.
South Africa.
White South Africans make up about 8% of the population, but they hold about 3/4 of privately owned land in the country. In contrast, only 4% of privately held land is owned by Black South Africans, who make up nearly 80% of the country's 60 million residents.
I'm sure that you guys know that white people were not originally from South Africa. Like, they migrated in the late 17th century from Netherlands, France, England, Germany, in short from Europe. I mean, they were immigrants in South Africa, but they forcefully colonized.
Bali bagwira abajja obuzimu si yaffe Africa.
This is something I do not trust.
Kibi nnyo okubanga batumanyira bwe bati. Video engenda kukwasa obusungu ze yanyiziza.
President Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law a bill that allows the government to expropriate
Ramaphosa uli organized, site yawe waji organizinga, site eri so organized.
Well, I don't think land expropriation without compensation is a good idea. I think if you realistically look at the
so city yetugenda okulaba etakkiriza baddugavu kubeeramu naye eri mu South Africa.
Land is not the problem. The problem in South Africa is economic problem, and there's actually been research done on that, proving that people don't necessarily want land, they want a better economic future. Most people don't want to be farmers. To farm is a tough job, it's not a very rewarding job in terms of money and so on. I also think that the South African economy will collapse if there is land expropriation without compensation.
Interesting. And I want to include you in this conversation.
So you know Wode Maya
in the comment section. But don't
Traveler is a good YouTuber. So get on subscribing to YouTube channel. Yeah, man.
On the US President Donald Trump's order halting financial aid to South Africa and offering refugee status to Afrikaners.
But this is what Afrikaners
YouTube channel
about Trump's offer.
Arena 1.6 million views.
We are not
1.6 million people.
Dollars and handouts and help. What we want, we already got to an extent. We want recognition. We want recognition from abroad. We want recognition.
So I know over 264 million views.
Firstly, those people are a people upon themselves.
So I guess exactly
they have the right to make certain decisions for themselves. That is what we want. We don't want people's money. We don't want people's handouts. We as Orania want larger recognition, greater recognition. And I think that is not too much to ask. Actually, I think that's very reasonable.
And probably you might be wondering, what do Black South Africans feel about
Nenga buno busosoze babukweka nnyo mu culture, it is their culture because ebitya nenga tosobola na culture nga tekkiriza bannansi kuyingira mu district eyo. Abaddugavu watu wabaki akamanyiro kangi video eno yanyiziza nnyo. Nsaba nawe kunyize okyawe gino emize because kiri South Africa kijja kutuuka wano e Uganda kitegeera. So balina ne currency yaabwe balina sente zaabwe.
And within Dahomey,
no white
kati eno Dahomey
person is allowed.
nayo tekkiriza abazungu kuyingiramu
Out of curiosity,
naye
I was like, you know what? I
eri
didn't
mu South
find
America
out why no
okitegeera
white person
naye
is allowed.
era biri awo ebitowa ebityo
I was
n'omuzungu
told that
talina
no white people are
kyetaaga
allowed in this
kugendayo
village. Is that true?
okitegeera talina kyetaaga.
Why?
In fact bano baali ba slave
The
babatwalayo
spirit that they have here is a warrior spirit who fought against the European in the slavery time. And every time the warrior spirit see white people, he gets aggressive, so they want to fight. That's why they don't allow white people to come here.
What will happen if a white person comes here?
Death.
abo bo bali understandable naye tosobola kujja mu nsi yaffe continent yaffe n'owamba district namba nga tosobola kunzikiriza nze Nansi kugendayo kumanyiddwa.
Within Africa, that no black person is allowed in there. And I'm like, you know what?
How come, you know? No black person is allowed
right?
in this city.
So I guess with the African audience that I have, I personally want to go there as an African, as a black man, just to understand what is the motive behind it.
Don't forget to subscribe. Katutandise video. Katuyingire city wano ne Wode Maya tulabe kiki ekiri mu city eno. Eno city tekkiriza muddugavu yenna kubeera resident kuyingirayo kitegeera balina pa boda check-up yaabwe olina okutuukira nga tonaba kuyingira mu city eyo naye kana kamanyiro g'amaanyi.
Country within South Africa.
Agambe yasanze ensi in South Africa. Yasanze ensi mu nsi.
I think there's different levels to freedom. I think our dream, we as Afrikaners, we love republics. We've created
Afrikaners
20 in South Africa. Only 2 of them survived long term. The Republic of Congo and the Free State. So we are people who love republics. Our ideal form of government is a republic. And I hope that one day, maybe my children will see it.
Good morning, or should I say sunrise, from Orania. Today is actually my first day.
So in the city bagita Orania.
And it was such a peaceful night.
Your city here together with Flambla ne Wode Maya.
Crazy to know that
city etakiriza
it's
black
so
people
okubeerayo in a white only town.
We feel so patriotic about our community, so proud. It's still small, you know.
But
we're so proud of the things that we have.
Today, Orania operates like its own micronation.
But in a flag, yeah.
The town of about 3,000 people run its own economy, and one of the backbones of their economy is agriculture.
The agriculture cook.
Do you guys export this?
Your backbone here, economy.
To our economy. Another interesting thing, obviously, is that here we can do something that a lot of farmers can't do, and that is we can plant 2 harvests in 1 year. So we plant the wheat in the summer, just before Christmas. This is harvested. It's plowed very quickly, and the farmers work 20 hours a day to get it done. They harvest, they plow, they plant, and then it's maize. So your next harvest is maize, and you harvest that in the winter, in June, July, and when that goes out, you've got a short time to put in the wheat again. So you
all the farmers live in Orania.
Obviously, there's farms surrounding Orania as well. This is an Orania farmer, this one.
So who owns this farm?
An individual farmer owns it. It is part of Orania, but an individual farmer owns this land, and the farmer works it for their own benefit and revenue and takes the risks for themselves.
It's really mind-blowing to see a town with just 3,000 people owning their own solar farm. Does it mean that, like, you guys don't depend on the national grid?
We're still connected to the national grid.
Yeah.
So at the moment we're approximately 45% independent from the utility, and the dream is to go the whole way.
What is the idea behind this whole solar farm, and which year did it begin?
It began in 2021.
Recent.
Recent.
Very recent. What is the main reason why you establish your own solar farm, knowing that you live within South Africa?
The main reason for Orania is we want to be, from the start of Orania, we wanted to be independent on many levels. And one level is energy. Our energy, if you're not in energy...
So, barabara baina ne solar panel controlling wabo ile supplying amasanyalaze mu Orania. So kirungi nnyo kye bakola because olanga kasiti kabe kali very organized. Ekisinga okunyiza tebakkiriza abaddugavu kubeera mu eyo city.
Loose from South Africa, they are our neighbors. We pay taxes in South Africa, but we're proud Oranians.
So they're not proud South Africans, they are proud Oranians.
Afrikaners. Do you have a school in here?
We have two high schools, primary and secondary.
So by now,
we also have a college.
Primary,
we are dreaming to build our own university.
You teach in Afrikaans?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything we do is Afrikaans. And studies show that children who are taught in their mother tongue perform better than children who are taught in another language.
Are you against the educational system in South Africa?
Well, I'm definitely against the Bala law that's currently being implemented.
What is that?
That is a law that gives the state control of the schools rather than the parents of the schools. So we're very much against that. I think it's the state grabbing the power of schools, taking away people's rights. There's a lot of religious issues with that. There's lots of cultural issues with that. So South Africans are actually very angry about that. That's why the schools that we built here, we get zero state funding. We don't get a cent from the government.
So the bafuna sente okuva mu government okukolagana amasomero kirungi naye ekibi kye ekyokugaana abaddugavu ate balina reason zebawa ez'ekisiru onyawulira reason maaso awo. So skini yaffe y'omuddugavu wakiraba yababbi tumanyiddwa.
You can study here but you can't live in here.
Well, they can. All of them can apply for the right to citizenship in Orania, definitely.
Citizenship?
Hey!
The college in Orania don't believe in theory only, but rather
kati woba omuddugavu ng'ogosomera mu Orania city olina oku-applyinga for citizenship. Hey, wulira.
Plumbing, electrical work and masonry to build houses, and that's called skills. And that's why we started the college. In 2019 we had only 5 students, 2020 50, and now there's about 124. We're expecting more than 200 next year.
So this is more like
ate bino bikula mpola because kali no community ejja kukula nga abaana be bazadde okitegeera babayigiriza busosoze. Kitegeeza abaana baagala oku-expandinga, baagala okufuna more land. So mu kwagala oku-expandinga
nga balina okugoba abaddugavu abali kweri ettaka.
Ebintu biranga ebyokusaaga naye ekirijja mu Uganda ojja kikkiriza. Ko kati bano bava mu Europe ne bajja ne basettolinga mu bitundu bino. Waliwo mu maaso awo wojja okulaba engeri gye baafunamu ettaka lino. So get live video.
My responsibility is the growth of Orania. In other words, in Orania we don't get any money from the government. We are responsible to create our own economy and your own wealth. So my responsibility is to make sure where is the certain areas that needs to address, and then we address our areas. What we are doing, we have various projects. This is just an example of a few projects that we currently busy. If you just go outside, you'll see we're currently busy building this place. this building. So it's going to be a 3-story building. That's a building that's being built here, just next to us.
Okay. The question is, how will you fund a project like this?
Okay. What we do is we say there's 2 various companies.
Okay.
The one company is a company that's funding, but it must make commercial sense. And then other company rent it from that company, but it's 2 separate countries. So you must focus on your own business. We must make sure that Orania is growing. We are not in the...
okay.
So we rent this building from another company, and that company just make economic sense. In other words, yeah.
Kyebakola kirungi kubanga bazimbye amasomero, bazimbye amalwaliro, balina za ambulance, general hospital yaabwe kiraba yeeyo. So helicopter oba helipad esobola okuvaawo netwala omuntu mu ddwaliro eddene e South Africa oba Johannesburg owantu wona. So kyebakola kirungi okubanga eri organized, like city yaabwe eri very organized. Naye ekibi kyekyobutanzikiriza nze kujja yadde okupangisamu eyo city obusosoze bw'amaanyi nnyo obwo. So balina sente ze bakozesa bazita Ora, eno ye currency yaabwe gye bakozesa. Kale zino sente kibanguyira nga bo okubeera nga balina security over their money, because omuntu asobola okusuubira nti no engeri bano gye bakola community yaabwe balina sente mu banka ne bajja okuba raidinga. Kati bw'ojja okuraidinga n'otwala bino ebisente tebisobola kukola South Africa. Okitegeere South Africa bakozesa rand. Kati bw'otwala bino ebisente byabwe kiba kitegeeza tolina kyogenda bikozesa. So bakola amagezi ne bafuna engeri gye bakuumamu obugagga bwabwe mu kasita ako n'ebya kiralo.
So the people of Orania trade with Ora.
That's correct.
Will this be relevant when I step out of Orania?
No, because you can only...
Kyembadde nkugamba zo sente tezikola wantu wonna, zikola mu kasiti kano kokka bayita Orania. Ogendayo n'obba ebisente byabwe obeera tolina gy'ogenda bitwala, tebimanyikiddwa.
Because you can only use it in Orania, and also it's a cultural emblem for our community.
Berimbise nnyo mu kintu kya culture.
So I just want to know, is it the same price like they sell it everywhere in the country? Yes. That's how it is? Yes. And how am I supposed to pay? Rands or Ora?
You can pay in Rand or in Ora.
Oh, you accept both currencies?
Yes.
That's impressive. It's surprising to see that a town of about 3,000 people have their own manufacturing plant to the extent that...
So bino bibadde ebintu ebirungi ti balina factories ezaabwe ezikola ebintu then ne batunda ebintu outside their city ne babitunda mu South Africa, outside South Africa. Kiro kyekibeera ekirungi naye ekyobutakkiriza ba black people bannange.
An Iranian business.
So, in order to build the economy of Orania, you have to export products that are made, and the money comes back here.
Absolutely. Tukkiriza muzungu kuyingirayo tufune flag eyaffe tekisoboka.
Orania got their own local governor.
Bano bagavana baabwe abaleaders baabwe ababatwala mu city.
What makes it unique?
Birungi byonna
No
birungi.
other such town council in South Africa.
Obuzibu butakkiriza
There's no political parties in Orania at all. All the people here represent
the political party
personally nominated
president of South Africa.
Secondly, we had a settlement with the South African government in the year 2000 about our status as a municipality, giving us the option to first make our own municipal bylaws as a local government, and secondly to have our own local taxes and levies, which we can use for the development of Orania. So no party politics, no salaries for the elected officials. Obviously the officials, do the head engineer and the head of, you know, roads and those people, they get paid. but the elected officials do not get paid for their service to the community, and that's what makes it a unique.
Is that Oranian flag?
Yeah, flag, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Who is that? Who is this young man in there?
This young man is called the Little Giant.
The Little Giant.
Yeah, it symbolizes rolling up your sleeves to work. So, firstly, because of the fact that we're saying we as a culture, no one is coming to save us, no one is going to build a future for us. What we want to build, we'll have to roll up our sleeves and build ourselves. And secondly, the fact that we do our own work is also represented in that. Our goal, our mission here is to preserve our culture, to build something for our culture, to preserve our religion. The question, why can't the black person come here? It's not the right question. It's more a question like a marriage between two people. It's an exclusive affair. It doesn't mean you're against anyone else. You take your wife, she's important to you.
Yep.
Or you know, and in your wedding, in your marriage, you're exclusive. Doesn't mean it's not built on hate. It's built on love for our culture. We want to preserve our culture. We want to preserve our traditions, our faith, our language. These are the things that we want to preserve.
But someone might ask, if you want to preserve your culture, you're preserving your culture on a land that belongs to Africans.
Well, that is another whole other debate. The land here we bought. From who? Well, at that stage we bought it from the previous owner, which was the government. Right?
But I don't think that an African can leave South Africa, go to Europe and say that we just bought this land and no one is allowed to come in.
My family came here in 1683. That is longer than American government official visited Orania a while back, and when I told him that fact, he said, well, that's way longer than my white family has been in America. I said, you guys are here in Africa longer than my people was in America.
Yeah.
So our name is Afrikaners, our language is Afrikaans. Right, so we feel part of this continent, and maybe people don't agree, but I don't have another home. Obviously I know that I have European roots, 400 years ago. For 400 years my people have been here. I love Africa. I don't want to live any place else. I feel a part of this continent. My language grew obviously from that, but it grew on this continent. This is the place where I feel at home, and I've been overseas. This is the only place that I feel at home. Africa.
Kubanga bali mu South Africa katera bino ebibumbe by'abasajja abali batagala baddugavu.
So all of these busts have been either thrown away
abasajja abali bagala
or they've been and we put them in a half circle to represent these are part of our history. No nation's history is only good, but also no nation's history is only bad. However, all of this is part of our history, and we put it in a semicircle with the symbolism. They cannot look over the edge of the hill. They are in the past, they're part of our history, but they're in the past.
With all the monuments that I see in here, would you agree with me if I say that this man performed a lot of atrocities in the past?
Well, I think obviously these are controversial figures, and I think the fact that we put them here in Orania with our own funding, some people are uncomfortable in the rest of South Africa to care for them, to see them in public, and I think that's why Orania is also a solution to a lot of the international conversation about monuments, because this is on private land, private funds, and it's our history.
But I know it's your history. But at the end of the day, a lot of people were harmed in the process. You don't think if you are embracing this, you're definitely embracing apartheid?
Wode Maya was a
Zulu leader.
Yeah, Wode Maya. Chichi making up with a YouTube by Katuri Exadia Jogger de Shaka Zulu.
This is a question for Oranians.
Shaka Zulu, abasajja abali balwana omuzungu aleke kutwala attaka lya
architect for apartheid.
I
agree with that.
I agree.
Shaka Zulu abasajja abalwanisa slave trade. myaka egyeyedda abasajja abazungu bajja okutwalamu bajjajja baffe myaka gyadda nnyo kati ate ezo South Africa ezo ensi ezaabeeranga ku mayanja amanene ezo zo zaabonaabonanga nnyo kubanga amato gaabwe gadookinganga ku ezo ensi ezo zo zaabonaabona nnyo.
You don't think it's because of this that's why people have problems with Orania? Because of history like this? Because so many South Africans are not happy with this history, even though it's part of them. But I believe, like you just said, let the past be past. I mean, we can never forget our history. But I mean, I feel like this being here, it's more like a, what do you call it? Like a sword in the eyes of the people of South Africa.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. We have had from the ANC Youth League, we have had influential South African politicians. We have had 2 state presidents of South Africa. Nelson Mandela landed with his helicopter just there. We have had traditional black communities, Xhosas, Zulus. We have had the people of the Barulong tribe. All of them have been there. I have seen in their eyes no offense. They have expressed no offense. They have embraced Orania as a model that they can learn from, and they understand that we have the right to put our history in a context.
Byebitebagenda okuwuliranga abaana baabwe because ebyumba byolabye ebyo byabasajja abasapootinga nnyo apartheid okitegeera abasajja abaatulugunya abaddugavu abasajja abaali baga okudividinga mu South Africa okitegeera so your history bwe bagenda okuba nga basomesa abaana baabwe kati omwana agenda okutuuka mu myaka gye tulimu 20 n'okugenda mu 3 ng'alaba omuddugavu gwayabba ettaka lye.
The 10-year plan for Orania is to turn this that you see here, to take this from town to
kyokka nga n'okugenda mu nsi zaabwe
true to our culture. We don't
gye
want a
basibuka
big city
twetagaza visa
we're going to build
kitegeera
no higher
twetagaza visa to applying for
integrate our
citizenship
agriculture with
kitegeera ate kati n'awano mu Africa batuzoganye batufunze batujje ku map y'ensi era kisoboka
outdoor activities. So we want a city that feels like a farm, and we're going to build a rural city. That's our dream. Our businesses, our schools, our Afrikaner
so ka city kano kikakola kirungi nnyo bali so organized oba olaba engeri gye kirimu naye basosoze.
People out there believe that Orania is a racist model.
Racism.
Do you believe
total
that
racism.
Whatever you guys are practicing here is racism?
I do not believe that we are practicing racism. To tell you the truth, I've said it many times that if the question is, are there racists in Orania? I can assure you there are. There are racists in every town in South Africa and every country in the world.
That
is a fact.
The
Orania model is a model of cultural preservation. And that is not racist. So you might disagree with me, but my personal belief, my honest belief, is that the Orania model is not racist at all. It is, however, a model to preserve something that we hold dear and to create a future where we can live our values, our religion, our language, and share our culture.
Who are the people that are not allowed in here?
Well, Afrikaners live here. Afrikaners live here. Afrikaners who embrace the idea of own labor, we embrace our freedom ideals. This is who lives here.
If you check when South Africa gained independence, if you check the coat of arms of South Africa, it said there is unity in diversity. Orania is within South Africa, but at the end of the day, I believe what you are practicing in here is not unity in diversity.
I beg to differ.
Can you explain that?
How can there be any diversity in South Africa if cultures are not allowed to be themselves? How can there be any diversity at all? If everyone is the same, there's no diversity. If you have a cultural community and you have the Xhosa people or the Barulong people, and they also embrace their identity, and from a standpoint of knowing who you are, of being proud of your culture, of embracing who you are, you get to a point of self-confidence where you then can put out your hand and say, without anyone forcing us, I can build a diplomatic relationship with this and this, and we can do it on our own terms, community to community. That's unity and diversity.
Government of South Africa bikkiriza etya? nemukiriza abantu babeere ne currency yaabwe mbuloko abazungu n'abadugavu bakole ka community yakaabwe bakole currency yaabwe olabo banakikiriza.
I feel like the Afrikaners actually have a problem with the English.
Well, we sure have our...
Kinege gye tutyamu kale eno naye nga bituzze emabega nga ffe abadugavu. Ne mu Uganda wano osanga ebifo ebimu nga tosobola kigendamu nga hotels. There are hotels in Uganda nga oba skin color yo si ya muzungu, si ya muyindi, si ya muchina, nga tebakukkiriza kuyingira. Okitegeera ezo hotel nyingi nnyo, njakolako ku vidiyo emu wano ezo hotel ojja kutya. Ne restaurants wano mu Uganda nga tezikkiriza abaddugavu. Omuddugavu ajja okukkirizibwayo minisita because azze ne security, azze n'amagye, azze ne poliisi, azze ne ba bodyguard. Naye nga mmwe ebiri mu Uganda wano.
It's not something we agree with.
If you have that problem with English, I guess Black South Africans also need to have a problem with you, because at the end of the day, they were enslaved. They went through, I mean, with apartheid that happened. I mean, for me being here, I feel like seeing what I'm seeing, with what you're saying,
the glorifying apartheid.
Orania is glorifying.
You cannot be having those ideas.
Then I don't think you understand Orania.
I perfectly understand. I understand whatever you're saying. You don't think?
In the Great Trek, in the wars, many of our people were killed by leaders like Dingaan and Shaka. And you know, and there's the issues with the previous regime as well. So our question now is, are we going to hold this as a tit-for-tat game forever? Orania's way of thinking about that is a very niche model. I don't think it's a mainstream idea of thinking about it, but we have our own way of thinking. We view freedom as not being oppressed by anyone and not oppressing anyone. And I think that's not the reality in South Africa anymore. I think, you spoke about apartheid now, so the systems put in place, what is the difference between having a pass under the apartheid regime to go into a certain place to go work, and now fighting an ID card to get into a luxury estate to do people's work? What's the difference? You're still living in the township. What is the practical difference?
So are you saying that apartheid still exists in South Africa today?
I think the economic equality is based on race in South Africa.
Orania.
And I think the only place where that doesn't exist, because the people do their own work, is here. And I think that model. Listen, what you're not going to get in Orania is people continuously saying sorry for their history. A lot of people apologize on our behalf for everything, and there's a lot of internal Afrikaner friction about that. But in Orania, you will find solutions. Maybe it's not the nice cherry on top stuff, people feel warm in their hearts, Orania is so nice to us, but you will find long-term solutions in terms of labor policies, in terms of...
The video about the Wode Maya, the Maya subscribing to YouTube channel yafe. Video enyiza zengaze enyiziza nayenga city is organized kyebakoze ekintu kirungi nnyo Orania so gikopako nga community zaffe ne tu embracing a bit of ideas ne tu embracing ne bine byokola currency flag tokkiriza abantu mu community yakisiru Africa enokuwa a free land for everyone. Oba ina kusente osobola okusettling wantu wonna w'oyagadde okitegeera. So we need to have a freedom. Abazungu abo bajja ne basalasalamu ensi eno oba continent eno ne bagiteekateekako borders. Naye nga eno continent in America it is a full continent. Asia, a big continent. Africa, a continent. Anybody, Africa, a country. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel, The World View. Thank you. Well.
I think what the world needs to know about Orania is there's nothing strange about it. It's across the world you get this whole thing that people come together.
and we feel the same as hundreds and thousands of other people. If you look at a country like South Tyrol, they do exactly the same. And I don't think there's anything sinister about it, and the world needs to know what's going on in Orania, what is going on in the
video, Wode Maya,
the kingdom of
real life
or the
in
kingdom
South
of
Africa.
whatever it might be.
Don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, commenting it to having a discussion about this topic.
Think together.
This is a bigger topic
maybe
and very sensitive.
Work out a better future
Thank
for
you.
themselves.
Peace and love.